welcome to our Cinema 7 podcast review of The Fall Guy. I know it's been weeks since you've seen me in person, so did you miss me, guys?
We're seeing any of us. Yeah, we've been having to take a little short hiatus, just because of all of us have different things going on. So, but yeah, you'll be able to see not only this video of us talking about Fall Guy. The other guys haven't seen Fall Guy yet, so we're gonna be talking about spoilers for the Fall Guy here.
Yes.
So we'll give you a warning when we get into spoilers, but for the first half we'll be talking about spoiler stuff.
Yeah. All I can say is it's great to be back.
It is. You'll be able to see this review this week, and we're also doing our main show, which is going to be about epic sci-fi films.
Dun dun dun.
And that you'll see all of us together on that one. So
yes. Yeah. So let's get to our Fall Guy review and talk about what we think of the movie and what we love and what we didn't care for. So let's get the fun started.
So yeah, this is the Fall Guy. This is the new David Leitch film that stars Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, Winston Duke, Hannah Waddingham, and Aaron Taylor Johnson. This is based on the '80s TV show of the same name, and it has basically the same concept. I've never seen a frame of the TV show.
Me either.
Like, never. I didn't even know this was a show when I saw the trailer. Like,
I didn't know it either.
I had to look that up to see if it was based on anything, and apparently it is. And not many people know what the Fall Guy is. Even my dad was very big into '80s shows like Miami Vice, The Equalizer and stuff. I don't think he ever watched this show. I don't know that for certain, but judging off, I've talked to him about it. I don't think he really knows much about the TV show either, which, it's definitely not on the same like mainstream level that something like Miami Vice was, but apparently there is a fan base for it, and from what I understand, it was well received enough to at least get a big budget Hollywood reboot of it. So, I mean, it is kind of similar to the 21 Jump Street movies, like those were based on a show too, but when those came out, I had no idea that those were. That was a show.
I definitely heard the movie, but I didn't know. But
I think people remember the movies more than the show.
Yeah, I meant to say I think I heard the TV show, but I all I know about 21 Jump Street was it was made into a movie and was made into a franchise.
The only thing I know about the Jump Street show was that Johnny Depp was in it, and of course,
which I didn't know that.
And he has a cameo in the first movie too. So
that's cool.
But yeah, this is the general plot. Or the general plot and premise of the movie is that Ryan Gosling plays the stunt man in Hollywood. He does all these big Hollywood movies with all these crazy stunts. And in the beginning of the movie, he has an accident that inhibits him from doing a bunch of stunt work for a while. He has to become a valet driver. But then he gets hired on to do this new movie, which is this science fiction western, kind of like almost mix up of Dune and Mad Max Fury Road, called Metal Storm, and it's being directed by Emily Blunt's character, who had a fling with Ryan Gosling's character earlier on, but they kind of have falling out, and they kind of have a will they won't they kind of thing going on throughout the movie. And most of the movie is a romantic comedy between the two of them. But the movie is also an action film involving a lot of stunts, because it is about stunts itself. And it also has a mystery aspect going on, where the actual actor for Ryan Gosling's stuntman goes missing. The actor's name is Tom Ryder, who's played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. So when he goes missing, Hannah Waddingham's character, who's the producer of the movie they're making, asks Ryan Gosling's character to find him and to investigate what's going on. And before you ask why doesn't she just ask the cops to investigate, the actual reason, this isn't really a spoiler, it's just something that I feel like should be addressed. The reason why she doesn't ask the cops to investigate, when that's pretty much the first thing you would think of, is because they got to make the movie, and they're not going to get funding to make it if they get the cops involved. So yeah, that's the non-spoiler premise of the film without getting into anything. Um, Overall thoughts on the film. This has been getting a lot of good buzz from South by Southwest a few months ago, and it's been getting a lot of good word of mouth. And just being able to see the film on last night, which was Saturday night, I got to see it with a different group of friends, and I had a blast watching this film.
I did too.
This was a great time at the theater. This is the kind of movie when people say they don't make them like this anymore, this kind of movie is usually what I think they're referencing. This movie is very much an ode to. You've been hearing this a lot in a lot of reviews, probably. This movie is an ode and a love letter to the stunt workers in the film industry and the level of commitment and hard work that those people put into every single project.
Yeah.
And this movie has a ton of stunt work in itself. David Leitch, before he got into directing with Chad Stahelski, when they did John Wick, both of them were stunt workers in the film industry. So they have pretty much they were the people. David Leitch was the perfect guy to make this because he knows that that field of work so obviously very well, and he wanted to incorporate that into this this IP of some sort. So David Leitch did a great job directing the film. I think there's so much great action in the film. There's a lot of great stunt work. Ryan Gosling had to have done a lot of stunts in the movie. Had to have done a lot of the stunts in the film. And not to spoil anything, but in the end credits, they have a nice little montage of a bunch of the behind the scenes of the Fall Guy.
That was really cool,
which I loved. I love when movies do that, where they want to show how much effort they put into the film as much as possible.
Yeah. I think I read the headline. He was afraid of heights.
Yeah, and I can't. I mean, just seeing the film, he had to have done a lot of those higher up stunts as well.
Yeah.
And especially behind the scenes, because you can clearly see that Ryan Gosling is doing a lot of it himself, and it's not just
and he got over
his
it.
own stunt
so
workers,
that's good.
So. But yeah, not. I don't think everything in the movie is perfect. I do think the movie has a problem with the third act, where I think it goes on a little too long.
Okay.
But overall, I just thought this was so much fun to watch. One of my favorite parts of the film was easily because, like I said, this movie is for the most part a romantic comedy. Both and I think Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt have terrific chemistry in this movie.
Yes.
Like, so good.
It was.
They were both extremely funny individually, but I think together you really buy their romance. Yeah, every time they're on screen together, I was smiling ear to ear.
Yeah. Yeah, I was too. Quick story before I give you my thoughts. Garrett told me that he went to see this movie last night, so that's what I was thinking. Okay, after church, I need to go see this movie because I've been wanting to see this movie really bad since I heard lots of good things about it. And I didn't watch any of the trailers online, which is actually a good thing. You want to go in completely blind. If you're interested in the movie, go in completely blind. That's the best part about going to the movies.
Did you ever see this trailer like in the theater for other movies?
I mean, I did see the trailer for in the theater.
I got the trailer for this a lot.
Yeah, I think I only saw it only once at the movie theater.
That's insane. Like,
yeah,
there's a few movies that I feel like have been the trailers have been shown. Like one of the trailers that I've seen. I mean, earlier this year, the movie Argyle, which I didn't think was a very good movie, but
gotcha.
I got the trailer for that like in front of every movie I saw for like months.
Yeah,
straight.
I did see the advertisements.
I got nearly the same treatment for this.
I did see the advertisements for this movie lots of times on TV.
Though. Now, speaking of advertising, I think the marketing in this movie has been pretty great.
Yeah, I agree.
Did you see the stuff that they did like in the red carpet, like where Ryan Gosling did?
I did see a little bit of it up the cliffs of the South by Southwest that they were coming in the red carpet. Two of them, Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, they were riding it to the red carpet behind, like in the back of the truck. Like that was a
I
great
didn't
way
see
to.
that, but did you not see the Beavis and Butthead thing from that?
I saw a clip of that. I was thinking that's kind of pretty cool to promote your movie. So
I mean, they did it. Of course, they were continuing that bit from Saturday Night Live when Ryan Gosling did that.
yeah. But I know what you're talking about.
Ryan
Yeah.
Gosling is so good on it. Saturday Night
No,
Saturday
no,
Night
no,
Live.
no, no. It's okay. But yeah. Um, I was really excited to see this movie without seeing lots of the trailers. So I was just thinking, okay, I'm gonna go see it right after church. So shoot, I ate my lunch, went to the theater, went to go see it, and man, was I smiling and having a great time throughout the entire film. I had a blast watching this movie. The stunt work and the action scenes was absolutely fantastic. David Leitch did a great job directing this movie. But the comedy, there were so many great
Yeah,
laughable moments. We'll talk about our favorite comedy moments later when we get to the
yeah,
spoilers. But it was so funny. And you're right about the chemistry between Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling. They seem to be having so much fun on set when they were doing this movie. And
yeah.
it was just
The
so fun.
without the two of them in their chemistry, this movie wouldn't have worked as well as it does.
Yeah.
I was worried that when I saw when I kept seeing the trailers of like, I really hope this movie does really embrace the stunt work and doesn't do a bunch of like green screen and CGI, but and they really don't for the most part. There's a few times where you can tell that they were doing a little bit of that like chroma keying, but for the most part they really do a bunch of the crazy stuff. There's a really great truck chase sequence in the film where Ryan Gosling in the trailer, there's a moment where he's riding off the back of a truck using a shovel and he's like hanging on to it, and
that was one of my favorite action scenes.
It's very much. It reminded me very much of Raiders of the Lost Ark with that truck chase in the movie where Indy's in that big truck chase.
Yeah.
Stuff like that I really love. Let's get into. I want to talk about Aaron Taylor Johnson in this movie, who is an actor I was when I first was getting used to him. When I first was seeing him in roles, I wasn't that impressed with. I liked him in Kick-Ass,
Right.
but in like Godzilla and Age of Ultron, where he played Quicksilver, and a few other roles, I wasn't really getting into him. Something about him just seemed pretty wooden until I saw him in Bullet Train, and then I saw him in this, where I was like, okay, this guy really does have something, and he can really have really great screen presence when the film demands it.
He kind of looked like Ryan Gosling a little bit too.
It makes sense because they need to look like each other for the stunt.
Which that makes it fun for that one.
And Aaron Taylor Johnson, in his normal character in the film, goes missing, of course. But when he's playing the character he's supposed to play within the Metal Storm movie, that was one of my favorite bits throughout the movie. Was just seeing him do the space cowboy thing, and he's got that really over the top accent.
Yes,
I was loving the hell out of that every time he was doing it.
I think he meant to do a bad impression on purpose.
Yeah, it sounded like a bad impression of McConaughey.
It was great.
But yeah,
I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I was loving that so much. Hannah Waddingham is also really great in the film. She plays the producer that hires Ryan Gosling to find the character of Tom Ryder, who is Aaron Taylor Johnson's character that goes missing. And before we get into spoilers, this film obviously is a movie. This is a movie about making movies. It's about the stunt industry. A lot of the times, movies about making movies don't do so well, and they don't really attract like the general audience. Example of that is like a few years ago, Steven Spielberg had his movie The Fabelmans,
which I watched and I actually loved, but it didn't
that movie.
But it didn't do well at the box office.
Yeah, and a lot of movies like that don't do that well, and I feel like a lot of the general audience, I feel like they think they're gonna get lost or they're gonna get confused because the film. I can tell you this from experience because I've been on a lot of film sets, and I've been dipping my toe into the industry. The film set has a lot of language that a lot of people will not understand There's
Yeah.
so many like terms that even I don't even know all of at this point. It's when you're on a film set and when you're surrounded by all these like these different people doing these different jobs because I've only worked in like in smaller independent sets, but I've been on sets with like at least like 20 people.
Right.
Um, and there's a lot going on, and a lot of the things that people say, it's like you're on a different planet
That's
when you're on a
true.
film set. And
Yeah.
I think some of the dialogue that is in the movie where they're on film sets and they're talking about how they're going to accomplish these different shots in the film that they're making, it probably I can see it confusing like some general audiences, but for the most part, I think like if you're a common viewer, I think you will be able to follow what's going on for the most part. Okay,
Oh yeah.
because most people, 99% of people know what stunt people do,
Oh yeah.
and most people know all the work. Most people know what film directors do. They know what producers do. Well, probably less so because producers can be kind of a looser term. But I for my opinion, I think most people will follow this okay. Now, have I know we talk a lot about our film. In our group, we talk a lot about film sets.
Absolutely.
Have you been on like a big film set before?
Not a big film set, but I was part of the little bit of behind the scenes of the a short film that Paul and
I know.
Holly did,
My
which
Devotion,
yeah,
and
which
which I was also
yeah,
I was the
which
director of
I had
photography on.
so much fun hanging out with the cast and also just talking to them. They were very fun to talk to.
And for something like that, it's easier to follow than it's fairly simple.
Right.
But I've been on sets with like there's a ton of people, and it's easy to get lost.
Yeah.
But were you able to follow like for most of the movie okay, like in terms of like the film set language and
I actually followed it. Yeah, I actually followed it really, really, really well. Once I actually know what the plan was and who was actually behind it, that's when I got to be very, very interested.
Yeah.
Along with the awesome action and comedy, which I was already enjoying it from the first two acts. Like I was already enjoying it. Which let's go ahead and get into spoilers. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So. If you guys don't want to get spoiled, you'll see right down the timeline when we get to the spoilers. So we're going to start the spoilers in 3, 2, 1.
Now, before we get into spoilers, let's give our overall thoughts on the movie and give our scores. Just
Okay, sure. Let's do that. Yeah.
Before we do that.
Yeah. You go and go first.
I think the only real problem I have with the movie is the third act goes a little too long, and I think it could be trimmed down a bit and maybe not as complicated as it is. But overall, I had a blast watching the movie. Ryan Gosling is just one of the most charismatic and entertaining actors in the planet. There's no confusion why this guy has been doing this for as long as he has, and he's been able to do so many different types of roles, from drama to comedy, and now on to more action-oriented roles. And I think he does it so well. Yeah, Emily Blunt's great in the film. I think Aaron Taylor Johnson did a great job. Winston Duke is also a lot of fun to watch in the film. For my score out of 10, I'm going to give it an 8.5.
I'm going to give it full 10. I was smiling. I was laughing throughout the entire movie. This was one of the funnest movies I've seen all year. I think it's one of his best works. And I had a really, really great time for it. Now let's get into spoilers. We got to talk about the comedy.
Yeah,
there are so many funny moments in this movie that I was cracking laughing.
One of my favorite bits in the movie revolves around. So in the movie that they're making, they have a bunch of alien extras in the background, and what the funny thing is that they have mics inside their suits, and when they speak, they sound like aliens. So it's not the type of thing where they're doing the alien voices like in post production. No, they're literally talking like aliens on the film set that they're on.
Yeah.
And one of the funnier scenes is Emily Blunt's when Ryan Gosling's first day on the set, and one of the big stunts is that he has to get set on fire and he has to get knocked into this pile of rocks, and
4 times
because Emily Blunt keeps talking to him through the megaphone and giving him direction about what his motivation is, and the entire time she's just berating him subtextually about how much he broke her heart. And everyone is on the set for this, and everyone just looks so awkward. And there's a moment where I think that they hand the megaphone to one of the alien extras, and they literally talk like that. And I forget, what did that alien extra say?
I believe the
forget.
alien extra that actually said, and he could be going out with your sister or something like that, which I was cracking up so hard on that scene. It was
It's
so
Ryan
funny.
Gosling's reactions to what Emily Blunt is saying throughout the scene, just how long she goes on, and how humiliating her what she's saying is.
You can't understand a single alien language, guys.
Yeah.
Like, you can't.
And what the funnier scene involving those alien extra suits is so after you realize what the twist is revolving around Tom Ryder's character, Tom Ryder is alive and he's actually behind the whole thing. And I forget what were their motivation for,
Okay, so in the beginning of the movie, the stunt man was pretty much going to fall way down the ground.
This is in the beginning where Ryan Gosling's character gets injured.
Yeah, and he had an injured back, and
Yep.
he hasn't been in a movie 18 months later.
Yep.
So then he was called by this producer to, will you please come back? This director would love to have you back.
Emily
which,
Blunt,
yeah,
yep.
which spoilers, she didn't want him back.
Nope.
So then people were asking pretty much the same question. Even I was asking, I wonder who was responsible for that. And it turns out that the producer, which she's a jerk, by the way.
Hannah Waddingham's
Yeah.
character.
The producer called over the Aaron Taylor Johnson's character to make them think the stuntman is the killer. Like, he is the one that's responsible for the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which I know. I know you told me during the recording or before the recording even started, something like that. You thought you saw this plot twist sort of coming from miles away.
With most plot twists in movies nowadays, like I can usually see where they're going. Now, not like exactly where they're going, like how they do it. I'm not usually interested in what the twist is, but more of how it's revealed. And a lot of twists nowadays, I feel like reveal their twists in a very contrived and very illogical way that
I'm not Shyamalan.
that feels cheap. Yeah, like a lot of Shyamalan's twists. The Village. I'm looking at you. But I think the twist in the movie works for what it's going for.
Yeah.
And I like that it actually does, for the most part, kind of like make sense with the technology that's on a lot of film sets now, because near the beginning of the movie where there's a scene where Ryan Gosling's character has to have his face like digitally scanned, because that's what they do in a lot of film sets now, is digitally scan the extras so that they can place the actual actor's face onto the stunt guy's face, so it's more convincing. And that actually makes sense for the twist later, because they can simply put in there, because there's a video that reveals, one person dies, and that's originally it's Aaron Taylor Johnson's character who witnesses it, and they instead, to make the fool the people into thinking that Ryan Gosling was the one responsible. And I think that's actually very smart.
Yeah.
Incorporating that kind of modern day technology into, what it can actually do.
The whole concept as a whole, it was great. I love the whole behind the scenes thing, and then you get to see an action movie that actually is taking place in real action, even though they're doing an action movie.
Yeah,
that's a great concept. I absolutely love
that.
Yeah,
I've always wanted to see an action movie like this do something like they do in The Fall Guy, where it is. It's a very meta movie, of course, and they use a lot of that to its advantage in the film.
Yeah, but after they found out that Colt did not die, you get to see him in an alien suit.
Oh my God, I have to talk about this. So
go for it,
there's
buddy.
a moment in the film where everyone thinks Ryan Gosling's character dies, and it's this moment where everyone thinks he's dead. Emily Blunt thinks he's dead, and Tom Ryder comes back to set to finish the film, and there's a moment where Ryan Gosling, of course, he's not dead. They just think he is. So Ryan Gosling sneaks back onto the set in one of those alien extra suits, and he goes into Emily Blunt's trailer, and you kind of see this in a lot of movies where someone tries to sneak up on someone and they get attacked, but usually it's very brief, like they get punched or something, and that's where the bit stops. In this scene, what I love is that not only does Ryan Gosling get attacked in the suit when Emily Blunt thinks he's someone else, she beats the living shit out of him. Like for at least 2 minutes straight, he gets freaking stabbed. Like he gets tackled to the ground, gets punched in the face.
Oh gosh, it was so funny.
Just the way how long it goes and the extent that she just beats the shit out of him just was cracking me the hell up. And
little PSA: don't sneak up on a person in an alien suit if you're a stranger. Don't do it.
And of course, she realizes that it's him underneath the mask when she takes it off.
But it gets better.
But yeah, so they have a little back and forth. They kind of she finds out what's really going on, and of course, Hannah Waddingham's producer character is up to no good, and she comes into the trailer. Ryan Gosling has to hide somewhere while they're talking back and forth, and there's a shot in the film. There's a shot in this scene where it's an over the shoulder. It's on Emily Blunt over Hannah Waddingham, and in the background, out of focus, you see Ryan Gosling in the suit peeking out of the corner repeatedly,
doing this, doing that.
Just the amount of times that he does it, and he does different things. Like he does that. Like one of the running things in the film is a lot of stunt guys do. They just do the thumbs up.
Yeah.
It's a very stunt guy thing to do, and he keeps doing it back and forth. He flips her off. He gives her the thumbs down, and just I don't know, just. Ryan Gosling, even like when you can't see his face, just has such a natural charisma, even in his body language. It just he's so damn good in this movie.
What were you trying to do? Alien sign language?
Yeah.
But there are so more funnier parts.
There's a lot of great
movie.
gags.
Yeah.
There's so many great
the
gags
hotel scene was so funny. You got to talk about that.
Yeah. There's an earlier scene where Colt, Ryan Gosling's character, has to investigate Tom Ryder's hotel room, and he has to go through this whole process of getting the key to this room, this ridiculous process that itself is pretty funny.
Yeah.
But then he gets the key. There's a shot where it dollies in, and he's about to get into this room, and the key doesn't work. He keeps doing it repeatedly. It cuts to him at the front desk again, just looking miserable, while
he probably knocks the door down.
The receptionist gives him another key. He goes back up. It does the same thing. It doesn't work, and then he kicks in the door. It's stuff like that. Just Ryan Gosling's performance alone is what really makes so much of the film.
He was so funny. And I got to get to one more quick comment, a comedic scene. Whether you like Taylor Swift or not, you can't deny that Taylor Swift song scene where he was literally in the truck crying, thinking about what he fell in love with while Taylor Swift song is playing. That is funny. That was
all too well as the
and that actually was her best song, which I never thought I'd say that.
It is a good song.
Yeah,
and she actually used that song for a short film that she actually directed a few years ago.
There's a lot more great comedy scenes, but you guys got to see the movie for yourself to see the comedy. It was so funny.
Of course, there's a dog in the movie.
I love
carrying
the dog.
off of the John Wick tradition. The dog is awesome in the film. Always goes for the nuts, like a good boy. And it's actually a French dog. And Ryan Gosling has to command him using French every time.
I forgot to say about that. Yeah, that was really funny.
Then we get to the third act where Tom Ryder, thinking that Ryan Gosling's dead, then he realizes he's not. Gosling, as a form of revenge, makes him do his own stunt where he has to jump they have to drive over this big ramp in like this desert set,
Yeah.
and they do this crazy truck like flip on the set, and yeah, that's where the rest of the big action sequence for the climax goes on. I think that scene, it was cool, but I think it could have been trimmed down a lot more. I feel like it has a fourth act kind of problem. Like I think a lot of the reviews have pointed out, but
Okay.
the scene itself is done very very well.
Yeah.
I think it just goes on too long.
Yeah.
Um,
But the one thing we can agree on is the action and the stunts.
the action
Like,
is
it's
incredibly
it's
well done.
it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that. Yeah. The,
And
can we give credit to the stunt people, please?
this
Like,
movie, I and of course one of the lines, one of the best lines of the film is talks about don't stunt guys ever get nominated for Oscars, and Ryan Gosling's like, nope, not at all. It really is time for the Oscars to change things up and give the stunt community like serious, like
Yeah,
give
absolutely.
stunt people their own category.
Yeah.
Like it really is time. And I feel like this movie is kind of the is kind of like the letter to the Academy to finally like recognize the stunt community and all the hard work that they do to
yeah.
pull off so many
That-
so many of these big action movies,
Yeah.
especially.
That's a great point.
And final thing, like there's a big cameo in the film, and it's Jason Momoa in the film that they're
Aquaman
making.
himself.
And they do kind of like hint that Jason Momoa is involved with it because of Tom Ryder has all these post-it notes all through his apartment.
I love the narrator when he actually said,
Yeah.
Universal Pictures presents from the director of this film comes this award that you never heard of winner, Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I think the ending scene did feel a little like it was really rushed. Like it felt really fast to get to like the end title card.
Right.
I feel like if they cut down the climax a little bit more and focused more on this, like the very last like ending montage, I do think that my problem would have been fixed more or more resolved.
Right.
But yeah, overall, this movie was just so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
I know because I do pay attention to the box office, and the film's not doing great right now. The film didn't have a great opening weekend.
I was
But
unaware of that.
I do think that because this film, like in the past decade or more, the first weekend of May has always been like exclusively the opening weekends for an MCU movie or some kind of big sequel, like movies like The Avengers. Like I can go down the entire list
Yeah.
of like I can starting from 2011 to like 2022 or 2023 last year. We 2011 you had Thor, next year Avengers, Iron Man 3, I think
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Amazing Spider-Man 2 was
Yeah.
after that, Avengers Age of Ultron. You know what I'm getting at. Like
Oh yeah.
when you don't have a movie like kind of like that in the first weekend of May, of course you're not going to have that big of a weekend because this movie is not designed for something like that. And I don't think it has to be. I think people were expecting a little bit too much out of a movie like this because
It's pretty much as a love letter to action movies.
Were we really expecting this to be like to have an opening weekend of like $100 million? Like
It would have been nice, but
I mean, yeah, but the movies, I would much rather have, a movie be really good, maybe not have a great box office turnout,
Right.
and then eventually find a bigger, crowd on like streaming when it comes out,
and on Blu-ray and stuff. Yeah.
than a movie that would have been the opposite, that sucked horribly and did have a bigger, box office. The movie, like, you can't blame the box office on the reviews or the word of mouth for this movie because the reviews have all, for the most part, been really solid.
Oh yeah.
The audiences so far really like the movie. I don't think there's not a, and this is what I sent a message earlier today in the chat. I was like, I love how everyone nowadays on social media, especially on Twitter, really, everyone thinks they're experts on box office and movie business nowadays. Like everyone thinks that they know exactly why a movie like doesn't do well or makes a certain amount of money in the box office.
Right.
unless you're like really in the financial aspect, like we're not. Like we talk about it. We're not. We don't call ourselves. We don't. I'm not the type of person who considers themselves an expert in why something does well or doesn't do well.
Right. Yeah.
There's so many reasons why this movie probably didn't do that well at the box office, and there's not one main reason. There's a lot of reasons why movies don't do well nowadays. You know, I mean, we've had. You can't really say that. Well, superhero fatigue I think, is a real, a thing now. Like a few years ago, I wouldn't think that, but nowadays, I think everyone agrees superhero movies are going downhill, and at some point,
In terms of the box office,
at some
anyway,
point,
yeah.
and this year, I think is a big turning point because we only have like a couple like superhero or comic book related movies.
Yeah, a couple big ones is
only one MCU movie, and that's
yeah.
well, only one MCU. We had Madam Web, which no one
No one gave a crap. Yeah.
no, and maybe is Craven the do we even
Kraven
think
the Hunter got delayed again, which I was gonna say the only two big superhero movies that I'm mostly interested is Deadpool, Wolverine,
And Joker.
Three. Make that three.
Yeah,
Joker, Poverty Dogs, and also Venom: The Last Dance.
Yeah, and Venom-
So there you go.
Yeah, we only have three like kind of big ones coming out for the rest of the year. That's for the past decade. That's crazy, and I feel like this is a good turning. The reason why I think the movie might not have done that well, the Fall Guy, is Hollywood is kind of in a shifting time right now. Not everything is certain. The industry is kind of sorting itself out after the big superhero trend is kind of going away.
Right.
And I think that is a good thing because this movie might not do well right now, but this kind of movie I think will appeal to much more people, and things like this will take time.
Yeah.
Last year we had two of the biggest movies of the summer not be comic book movies. We had Barbie and Oppenheimer. Who would have thought, like a couple years ago, those two movies would have done so
Yeah.
much better than, a Guardians of the Galaxy movie and a freaking Flash movie with Michael Keaton as Batman. Like no one would have thought that.
Yeah.
We're in a different time right now. Hollywood is kind of figuring itself out again.
Yeah.
And I think that is a good thing.
Yeah.
We need to break away from this. We need to break away from the same type of movie that we're used to and get used to maybe other different types of movies. And I
Yeah.
think that's a great thing.
Yeah. So what we're
for
trying
the
to say
industry.
is support the Fall Guy. Go see it.
This is a great movie, and you
It is.
should see this in theaters.
Absolutely.
This
It's
was
awesome.
so much fun to watch in the theater.
Yeah. And I could
especially
definitely
with
say
an
the month of
audience.
May got out to a fantastic start.
And we're going to have a pretty good May for the rest of it. We
Oh,
have
absolutely.
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes coming next
Yes.
weekend, which I am super hyped for. I love the Planet of the Apes movies, especially the last three, which I think were all terrific.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, next weekend after that, I think is
Yep.
the John Krasinski family movie.
Yep.
Which I think will do pretty well. And you being into... that usually isn't my type of movie, but I'm interested to see it because I like John Krasinski as a director. Are
Yep.
you excited for it or interested in it?
The more I kept seeing the previews, the more I got a little more excited for this movie. And John Krasinski, I mean, he is the director of The Quiet Place, and Ryan Reynolds is in it.
Is
so
really... There is another Quiet Place coming out this year, so he has
Which
two
is funny, yeah.
movies that are polar opposites of each other. One is a super cutesy, comedic family movie, and you also have a really
And then May
intense-
24th, we got two big movies that are coming out.
Yep.
The Garfield movie and Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, which I can't wait to see both of
Furiosa,
them.
I'm super excited for. Garfield, no, not really.
And
Maybe it'll be good.
Yeah, we shall see. Before we wrap up, guys, we're going to do a giveaway again for the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse digital copy giveaway. So remember, you can hashtag Miles Morales for your chance to give away this digital copy, and then we'll do a drawing of whoever hashtags Miles Morales. So you can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, so we can do this giveaway. So remember to hashtag Miles Morales. Don't forget to subscribe to YouTube, and don't forget to also check out our newest episode, which we're going to do a recording here tonight for Epic Sci-Fi, and we're going to have some more fun stuff for you to come. So we can't wait for you all to watch it and listen to it. So
Go see The Fall Guy.
Absolutely. So God bless and have yourself a great day.
Adios.
We have been the Cinema Asylum Podcast. You guys were awesome.